And when he made my brother get on his knees, he pulled a sawed-off shotgun out and he shot my brother in the back of the head, execution style.
They hate when you elevate. You're stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate.
What's good, guys? Your boy Damion, back in the building, guys. This is going to be part 2 of the Crier Family documentary. Like I said, you only get one chance at this, and I want to make sure that I do it right without leaving out crucial details about my past and the way I grew up, trouble that I got in. By the way, I'm up here at Darion's High School. Even though this is, the kids are out of school for the Christmas break leading into the new year, he still has like his basketball practice. And when the practice occurs like this, the parents can't go in. This is just for the kids. Plus, it's like their party. This is like their Christmas party / basketball practice. So the parents cannot go in. So I'm just waiting on him. But I'm going to piggyback off of documentary part 1. You know, and when I tell you, you know, when I got out of prison, well, I didn't go to prison for the gun thing with the police officer when his ass lied on me and said I shot at him. We all know that if you shoot at someone, especially with a sawed-off shotgun, the projectiles, they come out and they spread. That means they're not going to just hit you, they're going to hit whoever is in your way. And mind you, there's people coming out the bar, so multiple people would have got hit. So I clearly didn't shoot at him. He clearly lied on me, and he lied in the statement, and the other officer lied in the statement, and that's why the case was lowered. But I'm gonna tell you, I thought it was bad, and I could not believe what happened next, man. What happened next blew my mind, and I found out that I wasn't as gangster as I thought I was. I wasn't gangster at all, as a matter of fact. I thought I was gangster, but I wasn't gangster. What happened next, I could not believe. So I ended up doing my time. They dropped the case from shooting at a police officer to dealing in a sawed-off shotgun. I got like 1.5 years for that offense, but I was in jail for so long. Now, back in the day, if you get sentenced to 2 years in jail, you only do 1 year. So you only do half of your time. So the 1.5 years that they sentenced me to, I would only had to do like maybe like 10 months or whatever. So I had sat in jail for so long, by the time I got sentenced, I was able to go ahead and then get released from my sentence. And I didn't have the money, nor did nobody want to bond me out back then either, if they did have the money. But I ended up setting the remainder of that time in jail. So when I get back on the street, you know, I pretty much, like, I picked up where I left off from. I mean, I went right back to, like, you know, I needed money, man. You know, that's the truth of it. I needed money, and I needed to get that money by any means necessary, whether it was selling dope, whether it was, you know, being a stick-up kid, or whatever the case was, man. But I needed money. And so it's like during those 9 or 10 months that I sat in jail, you would think that nothing really changed during that time, but a lot changed. So I'm out of jail for maybe like 2 months, and I ended up going back and staying with my mom's for a little bit. You know, she opened her doors to me again, you know, even after I had did all that. And again, I was a grown man. I was in my early 20s. And so as like a month or 2 go by, the same exact officer that portrayed to be this really, really good cop turned out to be one of Fort Wayne's worst enemies. This Fort Wayne police officer turned out to be one of the city's worst enemies. The guy was into drugs. Not to mention, he wasn't convicted because he was found not guilty on the murder charges, but he was charged with 4 murders. The cop was charged with 4 murders. You guys all know who I'm talking about. Especially the people that's watching this video. I'm not going to say his last name, but I'm going to say his first name. His first name was Gentry. His first name is Gentry. Anybody watching this video from where I'm from, y'all know who I'm talking about. He was charged with 4 freaking murders. 3 of the murders took place right here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. One of the murders took place in Indianapolis, Indiana. One of the murders that he was accused of was my little brother's. He was accused of one of my little brother's murders. You know, well, you know, he was accused in the case. But the case against my brother, it held no weight because another guy was convicted of killing my little brother. You know, this guy, man, he admitted to killing my little brother. And we know that he's not the one who did it. You know, we know that he wasn't the one that did it. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison. He did 10 years. And this case was overturned from a technicality because they found some new information that proved that he didn't do it. But the story that was made up about my little brother's murder, and I'm going to insert the newspaper clipping in this video. You guys will have to actually pause the video to actually read the newspaper clipping because it's kind of a pretty big article. And then I'm going to try to find the articles of this dirty ass cop. And I'm going to insert the clips in this video too. And it's probably going to be a whole lot of articles because he was on trial for a while. This dude was dirty. Gentry was dirty, man. He was dirty, bro. I don't care if he got found guilty or not. We know the truth. He know the truth. God knows the truth. But the guy who allegedly supposed to have killed my brother, it was in 1995. This dude used to stay the night at my mom's house. He used to come over to my mom's house, man, and stay the night, sit at the table with us and eat. You know, used to be in my brother's room playing arcade games. You know, 1995, it was around Halloween time. You know, where people put scarecrows up, Halloween artifacts and stuff like that on their doors and pumpkins and stuff like that. My little brother was dating this girl. I'm not going to say her name. I'm going to protect her identity. But she's dirty as hell too, bro. She's dirty. She's dirty as hell. My brother was dating this chick. She was allegedly pregnant by him. And they was dating for a minute. But what my little brother didn't know was she was messing with his best friend too. She was messing with his best friend at the same time. My little brother didn't know it. So one day, my brother's car was in the shop, which they found his car behind the school a week after we buried him. They found my brother's car behind the school on fire. The school name is Elmhurst High School, right here in Fort Wayne. Imagine that. A week after my little brother is buried, they find his car behind the school building on fire. So 1995, my brother's car was in the shop. My brother asked his friend, and I don't want to mention his name because I heard that he's actually going through it right now to this very day. Karma, bruh. Karma. My brother's car was in the shop. He asked his friend, take me out to my girl house, you know, and drop me off. Because the girl's supposed to have been pregnant by him. So my brother wanted to be around her, you know, support her throughout the pregnancy. So my brother and his friend gets in his friend's car. They drive out to the Sweeney Park area. That's the place I used to go fishing at a lot. And it took me a lot of years to even go down that street after my brother lost his life. So my brother and his friend get out to the girl house. They knock at the front door. Now follow me here. My brother and his friend is together, his best friend in the whole wide world. They walk to the front of the girl's house. They knock at the door. Nobody answer. They go to the back of the house. Because it's one of them big old houses. It's like one of them old houses. They don't have a doorbell. If you knock at the front door, you may not hear the knock, especially if you're at the other part of the house. They walk to the back door. Knock at the back door. Nobody answers. So as they're walking to the guy's car, the guy is walking behind my brother. Like he's walking behind my little brother. And my brother mentioned something to the guy like, I know this BITCH is in there. She probably got another dude in there. And the anger that came over his friend that was behind him, knowing that he was messing with her too, without even notice at all, without even warning. Like when my brother was walking, he made my brother get on his knees. I mean, I couldn't imagine what went through my brother's mind when his friend was behind him, walking and telling him to get on his knees. Apparently the guy was in love with my brother's woman that was pregnant, allegedly. And he was hurt by what my brother had said. He was hurt from what my brother had said. And when he made my brother get on his knees, he pulled a sawed-off shotgun out and he shot my brother in the back of the head, execution style. And my brother's body just laid there in the grass, face down. People in the neighborhood, they heard the gunshots. They had heard the gunshots. But because it was so close to the highway by Sweeney Park, it's a very long stretch of highway. People took it as a car backfiring, you know, like a car was backfiring or something on one of the main roads, and they didn't think nothing of it. And, you know, the house was like a duplex. So there was another part of the house where you go to the front or you can go to the back. But if you go to the back and go around, it leads around to another one of the doors that accesses somebody else's house. And so later on, one of the neighbors was going out the backyard to get in the car to go to work. And they looked as they were walking to their car and thought what they were looking at was a scarecrow on the ground, because it was close to Halloween. And she didn't think nothing of it, you know, she kept walking. And when she came back later on, she realized that what she thought was a scarecrow earlier was actually in fact a body. And she said that when she took a closer look, she knew that the individual on the ground was deceased. And you know, that's when the police and everything was called, first responders. I was in prison at the time in 1995 when my brother had got killed. And while I was there, I never forget, man, I was, they called me up to one of the prison guards, called me up to the guard station, and in prison you have to wear like these little name badges. And in prison you don't have a name, you have a DOC number. I never forget, my DOC number was 945935. 945935. It would never leave me. It would always live with me, because in prison, you don't have a name. You're identified as a DOC number. And so they called me to the prison gate. They said 945935, report to the guard shack. I went up there and they took my badge off of me. When they snatched your badge off, that means you're on lockdown. And you know, I'm thinking like, what did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. They said you need to go to the squad room. The squad room is the big part of the prison where you have to go, and that's where you have your lieutenants, your sergeants, your captains of the prison, your wardens and all that. And I get up there and I'm confused, because I didn't get in a fight or anything. I didn't do anything. And I sat in the squad room and they got a counselor sitting there. They have a priest sitting there. And I still don't know what's going on. And they handed me the phone. They said, you need to call home. You know, and I'm thinking like, Jesus, what's going on? Did something happen to my mom? That was the first thing that came across my mind. That something happened to my mom. And my heart just skipped a beat. I called my grandma, Colette, from prison. She accepted the call. And I said, Grandma, in a scary voice. I mean, my voice was shaking, because I wasn't ready for what she was going to tell me. I said, Grandma, what's going on? The prison, I'm in the office, they're telling me to call. She says, well, Damion, are you sitting down? I said, yes, ma'am. And I knew what she was going to tell me was going to change my life forever. She said, I wanted you to be the first to know that they found the body this morning. And they think it was your little brother, Waffle. We called him Waffle. We all got nicknames. My name is Dak. They called me Dak because of my initials, DAC. Damion Antoine Cryer, Dak. And she said, you know, they found the body and they think it's your little brother's Waffle. She said they found him in the backyard out by Sweeney, and he was shot in the back of the head, execution style. And, you know, I ended up hanging up from her, and I talked to the priests of the prison and the counselor, and they told me I was now on FDR for a whole week. And I didn't understand what the term FDR meant at the time, but they had placed me on full dorm restrictions, which means I could never leave the dorm. Like, I couldn't go outside like the rest of the prison inmates to work out. I couldn't go to the child hall at breakfast, dinner, or lunchtime. I had to eat everything in my dorm. I wasn't allowed to leave. All of my privileges were taken from me for a week until the full dorm restriction was released. The reason why they put me on that is because when you locked up in prison like that and you get devastating news, they classify you as a level 4 or a level 5, which means you are escape risk. So they locked me down so I wouldn't be, you know, thinking that I need to escape so I can go be with my family. And so as time went on, you know, they were trying to get me to see if I can come to the funeral. And they were making the plans for the funeral arrangements and stuff like that. And they got down to 2 days before my brother's funeral. And you know, I was getting ready. You know, I knew that they were going to take me to his funeral before anybody arrived, because that's prison protocol. When they bring an inmate from a prison institution, they have to have you shackled, chained up, and they bring you to view the body without any of your family being there. That way, the prison guards is not at risk either. And 2 days before the funeral, they hit me with the bad news. They said, Mr. Cryer, you're not going to be allowed to go to your brother's funeral because of your crime. And I was in prison for robbery. And so they denied me from going to see my brother. And like, through the duration of that, it dawned on me, reading the newspaper articles about the police officer, Gentry, who was involved with the shooting. My little brother, about a week later, this had to be like a few days after his funeral. So that's why I say like a week later. A few days after his funeral, I had called back home. Now mind you, before my brother had got killed, his friend took him out to his girl house to visit her because my brother's car was in the shop. And just mysteriously, for some weird reason, a week after my brother was killed, a few days after he was buried, they found his car behind a school on fire. So eventually, none of it made sense. If his car is in the shop, how does it wind up behind a school on fire? So it was a big thing in the newspaper, and it really got people talking and stuff. And we knew that there was more people involved. So the guy, his friend, his best friend, he ended up turning himself in. For some reason, and even the Fort Wayne police detectives admitted to us that something was real weird about this. And come to find out, it was all staged, man. The guy turned himself in. He did an interview with the police. He admitted to killing my brother. He admitted to how he killed my brother. But his statements was inconsistent. But the prosecutor didn't care at the time because a conviction is a conviction. And they had a conviction. And that's really all they really cared about. So to make a long story short, to fast forward, his best friend ended up getting sentenced to 45 years in prison. 45 years in prison. Now, by the time his friend got sentenced to 45 years in prison, I had been released from prison years later. When my brother got killed, I probably had like 6 years left on my prison sentence. So he went down, I got out, and me and my little brother was talking. My brother that was in the documentary with me, part 1. And he said, man, you know, they finna release old boy. They killed our little brother. I said, what? And he showed me the newspaper clipping, and then later on that evening, it was on the news. Fort Wayne man convicted of killing a man at Sweeney Park, execution style, is gonna be released. And I said, what's going on? He only did 10 years. And so what happened was they ended up finding some new evidence that surfaced that the guy was coerced into admitting that he had killed my brother. And he finally came forward and admitted that it was the police officer. But obviously, the Fort Wayne police didn't want to believe that one of their own would be capable of something like that. So we talked to the detectives that handled my brother's case. They took me and my other brothers in this room and they showed us the interrogation video of when the guy turned himself in. And on the video, you can see the guy crying. He's talking about my brother. My brother said something about the girl when they was leaving from the house, from knocking at the back door. And the guy said something came over him and he pulled the gun out and made my brother get on his knees and then shot him in the back of the head. Then as he's talking through the interview, the tape cut off. The tape cut off in the interview. We seen it with our own eyes. The tape cut off. And then the tape cuts back on. When the tape cuts back on, the guy's hair is all messed up. And he's got a stain of blood on his white t-shirt. So now something has happened before that tape was cut off and before that tape was cut back on, which the prosecutor felt like that the kid was coerced into admitting to the crime, and that's how he walked. And that's how the allegations started surfacing about the dirty cop, Gentry. They found the body in a trash can, and one night the body was found outside of a nightclub that I used to frequent. Like every weekend, me and my guys, we used to go to this nightclub. It was called Club 1. And we used to go there, and one night we came out the club, and there was a shootout. And we was all behind our cars and stuff, and people were shooting back. That night, I didn't carry my gun with me, but that was the night I wish I would have carried. But at the end of the day, the next day we woke up, it was all over the news that they had found the body in one of the dumpsters behind a nightclub. And it was a guy that I knew very, very well. And the same police officer, he was on duty that night at the nightclub. And they said that he was involved in a shootout, but I couldn't tell because we was all ducked behind cars, hiding for our life during the shooting. So we couldn't see where the bullets was coming from. We just knew that we had to, you know, get behind those cars and duck down. And so that was another incident. Then there was another incident with the same exact police officer. I showed you guys in Documentary Part 1 where I got stabbed at one of the American Legion posts over a gun deal. But like a few months later, I was at the Legion and there was another shootout, and that same police officer, he was on duty that night at that club where 2 people were killed. And so that's, and those are the homicides that he was actually charged with. So I have followed the story for like 3 or 4 months. And this guy, man, he ended up getting found not guilty on the murder cases here, but he was charged with something lesser here, and he was convicted. But then that's not where it ends at, guys. That's just the beginning of it. Indianapolis is about an hour and a half from Fort Wayne. So when he was convicted of some charges here in Fort Wayne, he was extradited to Indianapolis to face another murder charge that he was found not guilty on. So it was just like a bit crazy thing, man. So for a while, even I had walked around fearing for my life. And the crazy thing is when a guy gets out of, so one day I was going to this restaurant, and it's a restaurant in the hood. It sells fish and chicken. And it's the name of the restaurant is Your Boys. It's like deep in the hood where everything goes down. So one day I was going over there and get me something to eat. And when I pulled up, they had it all taped off. It was yellow tape around the place, like crime scene tape. And so I was like, damn. So you couldn't go inside to eat or nothing because it was a crime scene. Somebody had got shot. So come to find out, the guy who was convicted for killing my little brother execution style, the night before, he was up there in that same parking lot, and he was in a pink Cadillac. He had his little pink Cadillac all doped out, rims on it and everything. And apparently he had shot himself in the stomach for some reason, or whatever the case was. But at first they didn't know that he shot himself because it was an investigation. And come to find out that he shot himself, man. But I heard right now to this day that same guy, he is going through it like he done been convicted and really going through some crazy stuff, man. But that's the life of my little brother, man. So that was something I always wanted to tell you guys about, because that's something that happened, and it's something that I can never forget about. Like, my little brother, man, he was like my world, man. And just to know that a cop was involved in taking my brother's life, man, it's just crazy. And I was scared for a while. Like, I was literally scared for a while. Like, when this dude trial was going on, I was asked to be interviewed by the prosecution. Another one of my cousins, he's a male, he was asked to be interviewed by the prosecutor because the people who witnessed things that transpired that night at the club. But I couldn't really do an interview because I was stuck behind a car. I was one of the cowards behind the car, if you want to say that. But it was real scary, man. But yeah, I'm going to find those clips and I'm going to insert those in this video, man. That's part of my documentary. It's just crazy, man. It's some sick people out here, bro. It's some sick people out here, man. But in my next documentary, man, part 3, guys, I'm gonna be sharing some things with you, man, that y'all, some pictures and stuff, some photos that y'all never seen before. And you know, it gets deep, bro. It gets deep. I mean, y'all ain't even heard the half of it. Y'all ain't even heard the crazy stuff yet.